Okay, so we're up to Siman Chof Hei HaSif Yud, marching through Hilchos Tefillin. So this is important halacha. We spoke yesterday about the prohibition of not speaking between Tefillin shel Yad and Tefillin shel Rosh. Yeah, we said in Sif Tes, also lahafsik b'dibur bein Tefillin shel Yad and Tefillin shel Rosh. So the question is, what if you did? What if you did speak? So it says the Machaber in Sif Yud, ve'im soch, if a person did speak l'tzorech Tefillin, if the conversation, if the speech was l'tzorech tefillin, then ein choyz mevarich. Why not? Says the Mishnah Berurah, va'afilim soch ben birkas lo niach ben hanochas l'tefillin. Even if you spoke between the bracha and actually putting on the tefillin, sheyad gam kein din hachi, it's not considered a hefsek if it's to do with the tefillin. Why? Because it's not a hefsek. Avalachat chila, says the Mishnah Berurah in Sif Kotan Lamadalet, also lahasiach ben birkas lo niach halacha hanochas shel Rosh. You should not speak from the moment you make the bracha lo niach on the shel yad until you've put the shel Rosh on, it's in place. Afilu b'dvarim shein l'tzorech tefillin. Lachat chila, you should not, of course, speak at all. Im lo heicha she'iyah she'binyach, unless it's impossible otherwise. Ach, b'chol hamoed, but for those who wear tefillin without a bracha, which is the shita of the Mishnah Berurah, she'ein mevarchin efshe deyesh lahaka lechatchila b'dvarim she'em letzorech tefillin. Maybe you could be lenient if it's letzorech the tefillin to speak between the shel yad and the shel rosh. Okay, but on chol hamoed when there's no bracha, if it's to do with the tefillin, etc., etc. Okay, let's go back to the Machaber. Top line, im shama kaddish. Now, interesting halacha. You're putting on your tefillin, and it's quite a relevant shaila. You know, you're putting on tefillin, and they get someone saying kaddish. Im shama kaddish, a kedusha, bein tefillah shel yad letefillah shel rosh, lo yafsik. You're not allowed to interrupt la'anos imohim, to answer, to respond. Ela shoisek v'shomea u'machavin l'masha imrim. You should just be quiet and listen to what they're saying. We should not interrupt, because you should not be mafsik between tefillin shel yad and tefillin shel rosh. Sif Kotan Lametei, says the Mishnah Berurah, lo yafsik v'afilu la'anos omein al bracha zu gufa. Even to say Omein on a bracha of tefillin, kagoyin, la'anos Omein al birchas tefillin shmevarach acher, that somebody else is making, I might have thought, well, it's all to do with tefillin, therefore it's okay. No, also, you can't be mafsik even to say Omein on a bracha of tefillin. Im lo shechaver mechaven letzir bebracha zu, unless the other person is being moitzi you and you're being yotzi with that bracha, etc. Okay. Lamed vav, la'anos imohim. Yes, sure.
You have to stop then while you're putting on tefillin and just wait or continue?
I suppose you can carry on and just think it whilst you're doing it, but you're right. It sounds like, from what the Mishnah Berurah is saying, that you should actually stop, think, have kavana, and then carry on. Yeah, you're right. Lamed vav, la'anos imohim. Now, ve'im posak va'ana amen yeshmei rabbi kedusha baruch hu, oy she'ana amen al eze bracha sheshamar. What if you got it wrong, and you did say amen yeshmei rabbi, you did respond, chayz mevarich. You got to repeat the bracha, right? Like we said yesterday, according to the Sfardim, according to the Machaber, you make one bracha lo niach and that's it. Also the shit of the gun. But according to the Ramah, you make two brachas, so you got to repeat them. And on chol hamoed, or if you put on Rabbeinu tam tefillin, where you're putting on without a bracha, shemeniach b'li bracha, yesh lahakel ulahafsik lanias omein, yesh mirabah v'kedusha baruch omein. We can be makel. To be mafsik, to say Amen Yeshmei Rabbi, etc. Achakach yoziz hashel yad mimkoyim koyim sheniach shel rosh. But what you should do is you should just move around the shel yad before you put the shel rosh on. Kadeshi havoy achas l'shneim. So it's considered one act, one entity. The shel yad, I've just agitated it, and then I put the shel rosh on. Shosek v'shomea, says the Mishnah Berurah Lamed Zayin, the hashtika ka'aniya, because being silent is as if you're responding. So when I'm listening to the Megillah and I'm just silent, I'm listening. That's yotze my chiyuv of saying the Megillah. But it's not called a hefsek, and therefore listening to Omein or Yeheshmei Rabbo is fine. It's not considered a hefsek, and then I just carry on putting on my tefillin. Okay, good. Yud Aleph. Acha shekosha shel yad al hazreya. After you put the shel yad on the hand, yaniach shel rosh kodim sheyichrich haratzuas of hazreya. In other words, we're familiar with this. We do this with our eyes shut. You put the shel yad on, and we put the ratzuas on till the wrist. Yeah, and then we just put it. We don't finish off and do the ratzuas on our hand. We then put the tefillin shel rosh on, and then we come back. Why? Because the tefillin, the ratzuas on the yad, he's going to say it's considered a hefsek. Right? So says the Machaber again, Acha shekosha shel yad al azra. You put the shel yad on, Achas kosher shel yad al hazreya yaniach shel rosh kodim sheyichrich haratzu. You put the shel rosh on before you start tying the ratzus around your hand. Soviv hazreya. V'yesh mi she'omer she'osel ha'isi tefillah shel rosh. Okay, let's just stop there for a second. So let's just do Mishnah Berurah Lamed Ches. Kodim sheyichrich. Hatam. The reason is kiven shebirkas lo niach chizeres gam al shel rosh. The bracha of lo niach that you said on the shel yad is going not just on the shel yad but also on the shel rosh. Kanal b'sif katan lamed aleph. V'chol shekein mechaber, and how much more so for the mechaber le'el b'sif hey desvirei de'ena mevarach al achas. Certainly according to the mechaber who says you only make one bracha on the shel yad and the shel rosh. So al kein yima'et ha'hefsek b'chol ma sheyuchel. You've got to try and minimize the hefsek between the shel yad and the shel rosh. V'hakrichas soviv hazreya eina me'ikadin, and the kricha, the wrapping, the tying the retzuas around your hand is not me'ikadin. Al kein toiv la'acher iso is what is good to delay it at she'neach sharosh. That you put the sharosh on first and then you do the retzuas around your hand. V'sefer kavonas harizal kosov. He would wrap the 7 wraps around his arm first, but not the 3 wraps around his finger, because the krichas are also considered a mitzvah part of the tefillin, and therefore it's not a hefsek. And that is indeed our minhag, that's what we all do. I'm a Chuvas Mishkanas Yaakov Siman Kaf Ches, Daita Gamkein Keminogenu Likrich Koidem Al Hazor Lechizuk. We tie around our hand to be mechazekit, to keep the tefillin shel yad in place. To belav hochi lo miskaim ve'ineni kashira, because if you just quickly just tie it around your bicep and then you don't do the retzuas of the hand, the whole thing will fall apart, and therefore is not considered even a kashira. Kosav b'sefer my Mordechai mishama kadesh kedusha achash bircha shel yad ve'miyichrich lo yelo penai lo niach al sharosh lanos. You know there's kaddish coming up, so you quickly put on your shel yad, and you estimate you're not going to have time to do the windings and the shel rosh. Yaniach shel rosh kodim hakrichas. You can put the shel rosh on before you do the krichas. Yeah. If you can somehow secure the tefillin shel yad without wasting time, as it were, of doing the 7 krichas, you quickly put that on, secure it, then the shel rosh, and then you can also amen. You can do that, right? That's interesting. That's that. Okay, lamed tes. That's the next bit of mechaber. So says the mechaber weiter. The second line: Yesh mi she'omer she'osa lahotzi tefillah shel rosh me'atik ad she'tefillah shel yad munachas. That it's also to take the tefillin shel rosh out of the bag, the tefillin bag, until the tefillin shel yad is already on you. Now we all do that. Without thinking. That's how we were trained at Rabbi Mitzvah. We take the tefillin shel yad out of the bag, we put it on, and only then do we take the tefillin shel rosh out of the bag. Right, that's what he's saying. In other words, don't take the tefillin shel yad out and the tefillin shel rosh out. The tefillin shel yad on, put it on, and then you take the tefillin shel rosh. That's what we all do. Continues the Ramah. Va'af im shnehem lefonav chutz latik. Even if both of them are out of the bag in front of him, lo yesakein lifteach hatefillah shel rosh ad acha nocha shel yad. You don't start unraveling the tefillin shel rosh, but rather you put on the tefillin shel yad, and then you take it out of the bag and you deal with it then. Let's do the Mishnah Berurah on that. Sifkot and Lamates, She'osa, Hainu, Afidu im yirtze lehoitzi, Hashel Rosh v'Hashel Yad, Shnehem b'shovem enatik. Even if you want to bring them out at the same time, to bezeh ein ma'aveh ala mitzvahs, Afidu hochi yesh lizoher, you got to be careful. Ki yesh bezeh tam al pi ha'kabolah. Kamosha Kotsav the Beis Yosef, like the Beis Yosef says. V'cholshkein loniach hashel yad, in other words, to take out the shel yad, put it on, and then the shel rosh. V'cholshkein loniach hashel yad miyodei v'lehisasik b'hitzah shel rosh. And certainly to take the shel yad out and then to start getting busy with the shel rosh, midina also, that's not allowed. Munachas, says the Mishnah Berurah in Sifkot and Mem, Rotzulema, Shetiyeh muhdekes yof al azra, i.e. it should be secure on the bicep, on the arm, V'oz muta afilu kodim she'osa hashiva krichas. And then if it's secure, even before you do the 7 krichas, you can put the shel rosh on if you're in a hurry because you want to catch Omein. Ve'im acher yochel lohitzi losaken sheresh ba'oich chaver maniach al shel yad. If somebody else wants to take the shel rosh out for you when you're putting the shel yad on, aprima godim machme v'artzas achayim mekel, then the artzas achayim is mekel ayin shom. Mem aleph lo yisaken rotzulema afilu im be'ez tikun shel rosh le'aniach shel yad gam ken miyodoi afilu hochi. Okay, let's just finish off the Mechaba. The Ramah, the bottom line. Yesh mishe kosav lo niach shel yad miyushav. There are those who say you should put the shel yad on sitting down. The shel rosh ma'umad, and the shel rosh you should put on standing up. Of Medina's Elu in our countries, says the Ramah, talking about Bnei Ashkenaz, Lo Nagu Kain, Ela Shtehen Mu'umad. And that's what we do. We do it both standing up. Which is all very familiar to us. Okay, let's just do the Mishnah Berurah. Mem Beis Mishnah Berurah. Shtehen Mu'umad, both standing up. Ayin b'Mogen Avram. He wants to be machriya between this practice. The hanocha shel yad tiyeh muyushav. The hanocha, putting the tefillin shel yad, should be done sitting down. V'habrocha tiyeh ba'amida. And the brocha is said standing up. Aval be'eli Rabbi b'shem Rashal b'tshuva siman tzadiches kosav. The milonu gadol mirabenu Shimshon Mikinoi. Who is greater than Shimshon Mikinoi? Acha shelomat Kabbalah hoy mispalal ketinok ben yomeh. After he learned Kabbalah, he was like a tinok ben yomeh, like a pure child. The mishla yochel hasik soida al nochon yovi. Because anybody who can't understand all the deep secrets of Kabbalah will come to do damage. And he says that the bracha and hanocha should be ba'amida. Even according to the Zohar, you're allowed to put them on standing up. And therefore we don't depart from our minhag, which is to make the bracha and to put them on standing up. This is a very interesting final few lines. Very interesting rules. Whenever the Baalei Kabbalah clash with the Gemara and with Poskim, you don't go after Teres Hanista, you go after Teres Hanigla. You go after the Gemara and Poskim. Miu, im Baalei Kabbalah machmirin, if the Baalei Kabbalah are machmir, yesh lahachmir gamkein. In other words, it's not a clash, they're just a chumrah, then we should be machmir for the Baalei Kabbalah. Ve'im lo hizka b'gemara poskim, if there is a certain halacha, a certain rule, that is not mentioned in Shas and Poskim, but it's mentioned in Kabbalah, we can't force you. If it's not in Shas and Poskim, but there's a Kabbalistic practice, then that does not impose us to do the same. Something which is not mentioned, you can go after Divrei Kabbalah. And if there's a machlokus between the poskim, one says this, one says that, Divrei Kabbalah Yachriya. Just very quickly, number 50, interesting thing. What is Divrei Kabbalah? Is it something in the Zohar? What about a recent Kabbalist? What about that? What about the Dekisei Arizal? So this is a machlokas. Just in footnote 50, it says something interesting. Not just the Zohar, written 1800 years ago, but even the Arizal written for 400 years ago. Me'idach, however, the Igros Moshe Feinstein writes, Sherak divrei hazoya v'hatikunim shem divrei tanoim nikrim divrei Kabbalah. Only that which is in the Zohar and Tikunim is called divrei Kabbalah. Avol divrei Arizal avshel gadol moed, even though he was astonishingly great. Mikol makom hu nechshav ke'echad me'aposkim she'ef shelachlik olav b'divrei Kabbalah. He's considered like one of the poskim, and we can argue with him. It's not for us to say who's greater than who. And therefore we can't say he's greater than other poskim, and therefore he does not have the same status as the Zohar. Okay, we'll leave it there.